Yeshiva World.
Milking the system. And let me explain how this particular program worked, because we were tipped off to this a while back. In fact, I get all the ethnic papers, all the religious papers, the Jewish Week, the Forward. You know, they lean left, unlike the Jewish press, which leans right. But I read them all, and I noticed there was an alarming trend of stories that were talking about how some of these yeshivas run by the Orthodox and the Hasidim, particularly up in Rockland County in Brooklyn, we're taking advantage of this federal E-rate program. Now, what this is it will reimburse up to 90% of the cost of the server and wiring installation in schools where at least 3/4 of the students are eligible for free lunch. That's a federal program. And I scratched my head and I said, wait a second. I've seen rallies. I've been at one massive rally in which the Orthodox and Hasidim were denouncing the Internet. It's evil. So what is that? If you don't want your children exposed to the Internet because you feel it'll somehow impose Western cultural values on them or make them weak in terms of maintaining their own religious upbringing, why would you suddenly be trying to tap into federal funds to get your schools wired up, to get Internet usage in a computer system that you don't want your kids using to begin with, huh? Right? You think the flash should have gone up on that? And where were the local politicians while this was going on? The Jews and the Gentiles, who had to sort of guide the way since it was a federal program. Well, the FBI, they've swooped in, they've taken away cart after cart of paperwork, and I'm sure that eventually this investigation will have a final outcome, but it better be by taking the perp walkout, the daisy chain, and having men and women, if necessary, who are involved in this process arrested and paraded in front of the cameras. And I know what's going to happen right away. There's going to be, this is a federal witch hunt. It's anti-Semitic. It's being aimed at Orthodox and Hasidic Jews. No, whoever's ripping off the federal government. And let me remind you that we went through this bout once before, way back, I believe it was 1993. I remember because I was reporting on it right here at WABC. And I remember Sam Nunn. You remember Sam Nunn, who was a senior senator of Georgia, Democrat, who was considered sort of like a Scoop Jackson, moderate conservative Democrat. Oftentimes his name was mentioned as a possible presidential candidate. The committee that he chaired was investigating the ripoffs of, that's right, the Pell Grants. Remember the Pell Grant mills? In fact, some of you listening took advantage of your Pell Grants, Jews and Gentiles, when you went out in the early 70s, and instead of paying for your college education, you bought cars, you bought albums, you bought 8-tracks, that's right, before there were CDs, there were 8-tracks, and you indulged yourself with smoke, booze, whatever, because there were no constrictions. There was no supervision of the Pell Grants. So then, supposedly, the federal grant government tightened up. But in 1993, Senator Sam Nunn sent some investigators into Brooklyn. And what they found, especially in Williamsburg, is that whole yeshivas were applying for Pell Grants for individual students and families who didn't exist. As well, they had Social Security numbers. But when the people were asked, hey, are you going to Yeshiva XYZ? No. What do you mean? Shlomo. No, my name's not Shlomo. Yitzhak. No, my name's not Yitzhak. Yeah, but that's the address that's on this Pell Grant. Fake, phony, fraudulent, fugazi persons. And then when all of a sudden the federal investigators would go to the place where supposedly these yeshivas were tending to the needs of the young, they were empty lots, sometimes empty buildings, abandoned buildings. And millions of dollars were stolen, in fact, $300 million by these Pell Grant mills. Many of them run by the Orthodox and the Hasidic communities through their yeshivas. Now, do we not think that the politicians knew about this? The schmuck, the putz, Chuck E. Cheese Schumer, some of the other congressmen and congresswomen who represented those districts, do we not think they knew about that then? Because they all vilified Senator Sam Nunn. What do you want, a witch hunt against the Orthodox and the Hasidim? Hey, what are you going to do, call me Are you going to call me an anti-Semite because I'm pointing this out? This is truth. And it needs to be stopped. And those individuals who are out there gaming the system, that means all of us, whoever it is that's paying taxes out there, who are suckers every time a Pell Grant is ripped off, or in this case, because we'd like to see all students with the ability to have computers that are wired up to the internet so we can compete eventually in the future against a world that is increasingly becoming more internet savvy, this E-rate program. So because you happen to be Orthodox and Hasidic, and I happen to say, hey, you're crooks, does that make me an anti-Semite? Or does that make you a crook?